Although 3 decades have passed since Susan B. Fine delivered her Eleanor Clark Slagle Lecture on resilience and human adaptability, Who Rises Above Adversity, resilience and adaptability continue to be a relevant topic in occupational therapy. I'm Amy, and together with Leah and Brenda, we will present Susan B. Fine's case study on resilience and human adaptability. Here we lay out the themes of Ms. Fine's Slagle Lecture. I will discuss the overview of theoretical constructs about the human response to adversity and the meaning ascribed to extreme life events. Leah will focus on the phenomena of resilience, and Brenda will discuss the meanings by which persons in extreme situations have coped and the implications of resilience for OT practice. Ms. Fine's Slagle Lecture is a study of human lives marked by extreme hardship and the ability to overcome extraordinary hardships and challenges in order to answer her core question, who rises above adversity? Beyond expected pathology and vulnerability, beyond theoretical and statistical methods, Ms. Fine suggests that the most valuable data collected to answer this question comes directly from the personal experiences of the individuals who have experienced chronic or terminal illness, physical or mental disability, abuse, poverty, wartime combat, the Holocaust, and other disasters. Ms. Fine had pursued many life narratives in an effort to more fully understand factors that influence resilient responses. She begins by recognizing that often outcomes tend to defy the odds, and the voices of the resilient send a powerful message. Personal perceptions and responses to stressful life events are crucial elements of survival, recovery, and rehabilitation. We all hold the potential for transforming trauma into varying degrees of triumph, and the 3 factors that influence resilient responses in the face of extreme hardship are our emerging functional capacity, our relationship to the world, and our inner psychological life. Ironically, Ms. Fine suggests that these same phenomena are often ignored in the clinical reasoning and practice of many health professions, including OT. As creatures of habit, humans search for order and balance, and there has been an emphasis to understand how individuals respond to disruptions and the consequences of prolonged imbalance. Ms. Fine suggests that the importance of adversity and the drive to overcome are the themes that characterize the human condition. External stressors, cognitive strategies, and internal phenomena shape a person's ability to overcome hardships and build resilience. Personal theories of reality about oneself and one's world, developed over time and generally outside of awareness, serve as a filter through which we perceive, interpret, and respond to experiences. Lazarus and Folkman define stress as the relationship between person and environment that is appraised as taxing or exceeding resources and endangers an individual's well-being. During circumstances of predictable and moderate stress, the individual is capable of using conventional patterns to solve problems with characteristic resources and adaptive styles. However, when challenges become too demanding or too dangerous, our ability to cope and reintegrate can be defeated. The law of disruption and reintegration recognizes that life events continually test the durability of the balance humans try to maintain. Life events are traumatic when the experience is beyond our control. And Cannon's work in biology and physics identifies this cycle as a natural and necessary part of a person's growing capacity to adapt to internal and external change, including contemporary concepts of risk, stress, coping, competency, crisis theory, and psychosocial models. Successful adaptation is dependent upon one's ability to develop and sustain manageable challenges. When a person's occupations are continually disrupted, the increase of chronic stress leads to disease. In order to better understand the differing perspectives related to the law of disruption and reintegration, Ms. Fine tracks evolving perspectives of understanding the human capacity for overcoming adversity. Ego mechanisms of defense explain the mental processes that handle crises and threats. Freudian views emphasize a hierarchy of defense that transforms conflict impulses into acceptable thoughts and actions. Adaptive functioning emphasizes the use of coping capacities over defense mechanisms, and Erickson suggests that successful coping promotes a sense of self-efficacy, which in turn inspires more efforts at mastering difficult situations. The cognitive appraisal process addresses how we interpret personal experiences and expands the importance of our coping capacity. Mose and Billing delineate the appraisal process into 3 coping areas. Appraisal-focused coping is the effort to find meaning in a crisis. Problem-solving focused coping attempts to deal with the reality and consequences of a crisis to create a better solution. And emotion-focused coping emphasizes the feelings provoked by the crisis. Psychoneuroimmunology validated the cognitive appraisal process by concluding that a person's mood and attitude directly impacts the body's immune functions. This line of research relates to the current views of the mind-body connection. And biopsychosocial research suggests that a person's ability to stand up to disruptions depends on inborn and acquired skills, material and interpersonal resources in the environment, and the psychosocial capacities to handle anxieties that arise when a person is performing various life tasks. The stress that accompanies extreme circumstances is beyond predictable. Previous experiences have not prepared us for them, and these extreme events are characterized by a lack of conventional social structure, a loss of anchor in reality, and a lack of the ability to anticipate outcomes. Among people who have experienced extreme circumstances, Ms. Fine asks, what are the shared characteristics they possess that cultivate resilience? And Lifton describes much of existence as the perpetual ability to survive. There are many reasons to perceive extreme life events as threatening. The most stressful or threatening seem to be events that challenge personal assumptions about oneself and the structure of the world. The phenomena of control is the ability or perceived ability to change, predict, understand, or accept life's circumstances. The sense of being in control and the desire for such control are believed to be crucial aspects of a person's character that affect our physical and mental health, as well as our recovery potential. Elements of body image, identity, and self-worth were dominant themes in every narrative, whether the trauma occurred in concentration camps, wartime combat, or a hospital. The pervasive threats to or loss of identity is a powerful force and may sometimes be even more significant than any real threat to life or limb. Lost identity can lead to feeling humiliated, loss of personal validation, and dehumanization. Feelings of fear, vulnerability, sadness over losses, and weakness about not being able to control one's life or one's emotional reactions contribute to feelings of defectiveness. And experiences that reflect a loss of self-control are often central issues in psychiatric disorders. Holocaust survivors, Vietnam veterans, and people with disability describe being in limbo as a form of torture, creating a chasm between self and others. For chronic illness, the lack of adequate communication from healthcare professionals can leave a person with the feeling of double nothingness, occupational deprivation, and lack of being understood. Chronic illness may represent perpetual limbo between disruption and integration. The perpetual state of being in limbo creates calamity on the psyche, assaulting a person's identity and disrupting personal connections. Now here's Leah to discuss the phenomena of resilience.
So, in considering resilience, what makes some people succumb to adversity while others adapt and endure? In occupational therapy, many times we will be faced with individuals who have experienced trauma or a health condition that requires them to sustain or progress towards a better outcome. Fine examines this psychosocial concept through past studies and the lens of others who've shown resiliency through traumatic times. In 1969, psychoanalyst and educator Rydell worked with adolescents who have beat the odds and inspired the concept of ego resilience, or the capacity to bounce back to normal or even supernormal levels of functioning. The formal study of resilience emerged in epidemiological studies of heart disease 25 years ago. It's only within the past 15 years, however, that more rigorous efforts have been made to move beyond the disease model and focus instead on good psychosocial capacities such as competence, coping, creativity, and confidence. As we know, whole body healthfulness is the lens through which OTs will examine resilience. So FINE encourages us to investigate personal experiences, situational studies of combat, studies of disasters and illness, and investigations of adaptation. Resilience happens through a process that involves thoughts and feelings and actions. It can also be facilitated by a sense of belonging and comfort. These cognitive, behavioral, and social attributes are parts of a developmental process that make coping possible. FINE touches on these mechanisms more later throughout the lecture. Theoretical models of stress resistance view the relationship between stress and personal attributes from several perspectives. First, as a compensation, where personal attributes help to improve adjustment when stress diminishes competence, or as a protection when personal traits interact with stress in predicting adjustment, or as a challenge when stressors enhance competence. These attributes have been shown to buffer stress and promote resilient responses. You will see that many fall under the nature and nurture, that people can be born with disposition and temperament, humor or intellectual ability, yet may have also certain traits shaped by their environment or social skills, like family cohesion and warmth, empathy, external support systems, and social problem-solving skills. These phenomena, however, show variability over time and at different developmental periods, as previous studies have shown. For both children and adults, response to stress is influenced by personal traits that are also situation-specific. Resilience is often measured behaviorally on the basis of a person's competence and success in meeting society's expectations despite great obstacles. To further examine resilience, the author dives into different perspectives on coping behavior. Each of these perspectives highlights ways in which OTs can promote resilience in patients and clients faced with adverse health conditions. Truly functional coping behavior has been characterized as not only lessening the immediate impact of stress, but also maintaining a sense of self-worth and unity with the past and the anticipated future. It involves two distinct tasks: a response to the requirements of the situation and a response to the feelings about the situation. Like, what do I need to do? How do I feel about this situation? As you can imagine, each response will be unique to the person and the circumstance, and this lecture has covered several perspectives. Consider the perspective of Nancy Mears, an author who had MS, chronic depression, and agoraphobia. Her writing demonstrates her resilience through her engagement in daily occupations. Each gesture carries a weight of uncertainty, demands significant attention: buttoning my shirt, changing a light bulb, walking down the stairs. The minutiae of my life have had to assume dramatic proportions. If I could not delight in them, they would likely drown me in rage and self-pity. Yet I'm unwilling to forgo the adventurous life, the difficulty of it, even the pain, the fear, and the sudden, brief lift of spirit that graces the pilgrimage. If I am to have it, I must change the terms by which it is lived. I refine adventure, make it smaller and smaller, whether I am feeding fish oaks to my betas, lying wide-eyed in the dark, battling yet another bout of depression, cooking a chicken, or meeting a friend for lunch. I am always having the adventures that are mine to have. Miss Mayers accepted the challenges brought by her diagnoses and altered her lifestyle while maintaining some semblance of control over her life through a commitment to scale down adventure. In OT, this is similar to grading activities for client-centered outcomes. Feelings of competence can build resilience and hardiness, and Miss Mayers surely demonstrated hardiness in the face of adverse circumstances. Hardiness is characterized by challenge, commitment, and control of attributes. Challenge is expressed as a belief that change is normal in life and is an incentive for growth rather than a threat to security. Control is expressed by feeling and acting as if one is influential rather than helpless. It works through the use of imagination, knowledge, skill, and choice. And commitment is a tendency to involve rather than alienate oneself from situations. This allows one to find events, things, and people meaningful, and to approach situations rather than avoid them. In extraordinarily stressful situations, the ones that diminish social structure, connections with reality, and the sense of predictability, opportunities to operationalize these factors are greatly compromised. Nonetheless, cognitive and behavioral coping mechanisms and efforts to recruit social support, as we mentioned in the earlier slides, emerge and find expression in the most remarkable ways. The personal perspectives of people whose anecdotes follow are a tribute to the resourcefulness of the human mind and spirit. Their thoughts, feelings, and actions reflect the true character of resilience. Fine demonstrates the following perspectives through the lens of adversity. First is the hope and will to overcome. These are evident in the poignant poetry of children who found comfort and inspiration in the resilience of nature while confined in a Czechoslovakian camp in 1944. Acquiring a sense of belonging to a social group, or for that matter, to all of life, can manifest itself by turning one's attention inward to memories and images of loved ones, by participating in an organized underground movement, or by devising a tap code to communicate through cell walls to other Vietnam prisoners of war. It also emerges through the collaboration of a therapist with a mentally ill patient. And finding meaning and purpose of an ordeal. We've all heard a lot about finding meaning and purpose in activities, in OT in particular. This reflects choosing one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, or having the power and control over how you interpret and explain what happens to you is another coping mechanism that is expressed in many different ways. Some find it in an increased commitment to religion, a political ideal, or a social cause. Others find it by using intellect and creativity to combat devastating fear. The capacity to step back is functioning somewhat like a solution to a figure ground problem. This process provides one with the option of ignoring aspects of the situation that are out of their control. It may appear as a preferred focus on the good of a situation, or it might be marked by a heightened capacity for observation of what's happening, where details of events, faces, words, or sensations are retained. Another perspective is that there is more to oneself than the current circumstances suggest. Fine described a young woman born with quadrilateral limb deficiencies who stressed her assets instead of her deficits, and her ability to write better with her stumps rather than her artificial arms. Interestingly, her rehab team viewed her refusal to use prosthetics as poor adaptation. And novel applications of problem-solving strategies involves creative and reflective behavior. Resilience is manifest in the ability to turn a familiar way of solving problems into novel application, one that may save a life. As illustrated in the article, when a mountain climber, Mr. Sachs, sustained his injury while mountain climbing alone, he almost died of exposure. He reported that there came to his aid a kinetic melody, rhythm, and motor music. And he quoted, "Now, so to speak, I was musicked along." Remembrance of his song gave him the strength and rhythm to row himself along the ground for many hours until he found help.
A longitudinal study conducted by Vaillant in 1977 explores the life and coping strategies of a group of Harvard graduates and documents that the mature ego mechanisms of altruism, humor, suppression, and sublimation function to transform disturbances into adaptive behavior, thus transforming droves into gold. Fine provides an example of a 50-year-old chronically mentally ill woman who sustains her sense of altruism despite her condition and the challenges that come along with it by being an ardent giver. The dignity and control she experiences in giving to others when she herself is in such great need allows her more comfort than she might otherwise have. Now, how durable is resilience? Resilient responses to ordeals have a phase-specific attributes. In the acute phase, energy is directed at minimizing the impact of the stress and stressor. In the reorganization phase, a new reality is faced and accepted in part or in whole. And then there is the rest of one's life. Can resilience last a lifetime? According to Fine, resilience is neither a single act nor a constant state. The interplay among factors such as age, general health status, and changing roles and relationships may conspire to diminish resilience in some while allowing it to continue to flourish in others. So, it appears to be less an enduring characteristic and more a process determined by the impact of particular life experiences on particular conceptions of one's own life history. We're going to speak on some implications for practice. So I want to start off with this section with a quote by Susan B. Fine. It reads, "Even a resilient outcome does not represent a simple linear trajectory. It often requires the empathetic attention and skillful assistance of those like us, who are empowered by training and, I hope, by inclination." Okay. Ordeals provide a window of opportunity. The circumstances that bring us and our patients together provides a window of opportunity for building resilience. As occupational therapists, we can provide timely and meaningful interventions which can have a significant impact on the reintegration process of our patients. Timely and meaningful interventions may involve helping people find meaning in their crisis, handle feelings provoked by their situation, accept the reality and consequences of their condition, and foster functional skills and behaviors that they will need to fulfill their potential. However, the conflicts that arise among individual needs, professional values, and the healthcare system's priorities pose real challenges to those who need access before this window of opportunity for building resilience is shut. For example, as occupational therapists, we may notice the potential for resilience in our patients and begin the process of nurturing the potential. But with only 6 inpatient days or 12 annual reimbursed outpatient visits, our opportunity for helping them build resilience is limited. Therefore, it is important for us as healthcare professionals to examine our own role in perpetuating this dilemma. We must reevaluate and in some instances reframe short and long-term practice models. We must also educate colleagues, administrators, and instructors to the personal and financial impact of psychosocial factors on recovery and rehabilitation outcome in all areas of specialization. Many factors influence individual response to ordeals. It's important to understand that some people are their own best facilitators, while others may need help, and that no matter what group they belong to, neither group should face its ordeals at the hands of caregivers in environments that induce more stress. As occupational therapists, we must commit ourselves to understanding the complexities of personality, coping capacities, and environmental influences, and use them to identify goals, interventions, and environments that are meaningful to a given person under a given set of circumstances. Transforming adversity into possibilities. Thoughts, feelings, and actions influenced by neurobiology and environment are the means by which our patients attempt to invent coherence and order that is acceptable to themselves and the outside world. As occupational therapists, we can help our patients transform adversity into possibilities by calling forth the character of acts, which involves our understanding and using the patient's thoughts and feelings, collaborating with him or her, establishing trust, and reaching for the personal context that is partner to external reality and individual potentials for functional behavior. Our takeaway message is that to enhance a patient's outcomes, we must integrate the patient's experience of their condition and pre-existing patterns of self-regulating activity with our concerns and strategies for functional mobilization. Occupational therapists are ethnographers of sorts. The ethnographer draws on knowledge of the context to make sense of behavior, allowing him or herself to sample the subject's experience. We must remind ourselves that psychosocial phenomena belongs to everyone, irrespective of their diagnosis and health status. Practice that separates feelings from function and psychosocial from physical perpetuates disorder rather than fostering reintegration. Finally, our responsiveness to the inner lives of others can add perspective to our professional assumptions and enhance our understanding of human performance capacity. Ms. Fine suggests the importance of further exploring the issue of resilience because the collective thoughts and actions of many are needed to give meaning to the hardships our patients endure and the difference occupational therapy can make. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.